Thank you for being here today, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your service to Houston and your support of our universities. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our Mayor, Sylvester Turner.
Let me start off by thanking Dr. Blanchard, and thank you for extending the invitation to me to be with you this afternoon for this very, very special occasion. To Regent Delgado, let me wish you the very best as you go forward in your future endeavors. To all of the Board of Regents, to the faculty, to the alumni, to the family of all of these graduates that are here, to Sebastian, appreciated your remarks, my man, and wish you the very best. And most importantly, to each one of these graduates of University of Houston, downtown, spring of 2022, congratulations to all of you. Look, I know you're anxious to hear your name called and come across this stage, so let me just try to make my remarks, hit to the point, and then let you enjoy this moment that you have been looking forward for a long time. Because this is your moment, and each of you has your own story to tell on how you got here. When I listened to Dr. Blanchard, and he asked each of you to stand up in different categories, as the mayor of the city of Houston, I sat there and I was extremely, extremely proud. Some of you, like me, were your first generation to graduate from a college, and I applaud you in all of that. If your story is similar to mine, where neither one of my parents graduated from high school. My dad died of cancer when I was 13 because we didn't have any private health insurance. Quite frankly, the best health care we could get was to take a bus or two and go to Ben Taub Hospital. It was my mom who didn't graduate from high school, never learned how to drive, was a maid at the old Rice Hotel for many, many years. And she would take care of her kids and then catch the next bus, go downtown, and clean other people's rooms. She reared 9 kids by herself. And so when it came time for me to graduate, you can imagine how proud she was. Some of you come from immigrant families, and your parents or grandparents may not even speak English. Some of you come from very limited households where the resources are not very much. And as I saw you stand, many of you have had to work 30 and 40 hours just to keep ends meeting, and you find yourself here today. Some of you are starting your second careers. I had a chance to meet someone in this class, and I don't think, I'm not calling her name, so I know she doesn't mind. 52 years old, and is graduating today. So some are starting your second careers, and some of you have just been at it for a long, long time, but you are finishing it. You're getting your degree today. Regardless of how you got here, regardless of how long it has taken, the fact is you are here and this is your day, and you have every right to be proud. And then on top of your own circumstances, over the last 5 years in our city, we have gone through a whole lot. In 2017, we went through Hurricane Harvey. More rain, 52 inches, fell on this city than on any other city on the North American continent. And then on top of that, for the last 2+ years, we have faced COVID-19, and things literally change. As Dr. Blanchard said, We had to go online, learn to continue our learning, but you did. Some even lost their jobs. Some, the money got real funny. It was just barely there. Some were told to go home and social distance. But if you grew up in a family like mine, it was difficult to social distance when you lived in a 2-bedroom home and a kitchen and a living room with 9 brothers and sisters. Hell, I don't know what social distance means, but you were told to social distance. Some would say just kind of do the best you can. But let me tell you, when you have to work, in order to take care of yourself, you just gotta do what you have to do. So we went through COVID-19. And if that wasn't enough, in February of 2021, we had the winter storm, pipes froze, literally homes were leaking, no water, no power, and yet you pushed through all of that. Some of us have faced economic uncertainties. Some lost their jobs, couldn't even pay for their rent, and many were just trying to find a way how to stay in your home or in your apartment, but you pushed through. Despite all of those challenges, despite all of those hurdles, you are here today, and you have every right to be extremely proud. I want you to know your mayor is very proud of you. Give yourselves a hand. Sebastian talked about ups and downs, challenges. Let me tell you, just because you're graduating today doesn't mean that those challenges will not keep coming. There will be ups and downs. I know in growing up, and I grew up on the north side in Houston, in Acres Home, they call it the 4-4. That's where I grew up. And I never forget in growing up, my daddy was diagnosed with cancer. I was 13 years old. My mom and my dad, they didn't tell us that he had cancer. My dad was a yard man, and he worked at Continental and IMSCO. And when we would go on the other side of town and cut people's grass, I would see my daddy fall to the ground. And my dad would grab the lawnmower and pull himself up. We didn't know what was causing him to fall. We just saw him falling. Around the house, my daddy would be walking around. He would fall to the ground. He would pull himself right back up. And when we would go to approach my dad, to help my dad, my mom would say, "Hold, your dad will be all right." And he would pull himself right back up. Didn't know at the time that the cancer was eating my dad up on the inside. But because he had to work, and we didn't have private health insurance, my dad made the decision that he was going to work as long as his body would hold out. Because in his mind, he had 9 kids to feed. And so he said he was going to work until the Lord called him home. And literally, that is what my dad did. The last time I saw my dad was the night after he finished working, when the cancer simply overcame him, and he went to the hospital. I never saw my dad again. But my dad taught me something that I didn't just learn from University of Houston, that I didn't learn from Harvard. My dad taught me in his living and in his dying that when you get knocked down, you just have to learn how to pull yourself right back up. When you get knocked down, you learn how to pull yourself right back up. Later on in life, when I graduated from University of Houston, decided I wanted to be this lawyer. I got admitted to Harvard Law School. And in order to go, I had some financial papers that I had to fill out. The only person that I knew that had good credit was that maid who didn't graduate from high school, who never learned how to drive, who worked at the old Rice Hotel. So I went to my mom and I said, "Ma, I got admitted to Harvard Law School." My mom didn't even know what Harvard was, didn't know the name, didn't know what city was in. The only thing she asked me, well, she asked me several things. Number one was, "Sylvester, what are you asking me to sign?" I said, "Ma, it's just some papers that will help me to go to law school." She said, "Well, what's in the papers?" I said, "Well, it's just some loan papers, and all I need is your signature right here on these papers." So my mom asked me again, "How much is this loan?" Now, let me say this to you. My mom was a Christian woman, and she went to church every single Sunday. But when I told my mom how much that loan was, my mom used some words I didn't even think she knew of. And again, I asked her, "Mom, all I need is your signature." You know what my mom said to me? She said, "Sylvester, I got 8 other kids other than you, and I gotta make sure that they are taken care of and there's a roof over their head and a floor beneath their feet. I'm not gonna do anything that's gonna jeopardize me losing this home for my other 8 kids. So the answer is no." I told my mom, "Well, you always told me I could be whatever the good Lord wanted me to be. You told me always to dream big." And I said this, "My dad is gone, and you are the only one here that I know of. And I know God put you here for a reason." She still said no. A few days later, when I came home, my mom asked me if I had picked up the papers on the table. I went over and looked at the papers, and I noticed that my mom had signed the loan papers. And what she said to me, "I don't know what the future holds, but it is true. I did say you could be all that the good Lord would have you to be. I do believe in you, and I'm going to trust that by signing these papers, that everything down the road will be okay." You know, one of the reasons why I like coming to these graduations is because every time I sit here and even stand here, I reflect on my mom when it came time for me to graduate from law school. Can you imagine the one person that I wanted to be at that graduation? That happened to be my mom. And I want you to know today that because of that maid, because of that mother that reared 9 kids, because of that mother that never graduated from a high school or a college or some grad school, you have invited me here to be the commencement speaker for University of Houston downtown, and I thank my mom for that. Like you, the city of Houston has proven to be resilient. We have weathered many storms and faced many challenges. We have been knocked down, but we didn't stay down. We are a can-do city, and you represent the spirit of this city. You're graduating today at a time of unprecedented growth and technological advancement in our city. In the past week, the old Sears on South Main has now been converted into the Ion. It is like the Galleria of technology and innovation in our city. People all over the world are looking at what we are doing at the Ion on South Main. Across the street is Greentown Labs. It represents the largest climate tech incubator on the North American continent, and it has expanded from Boston to the city of Houston. At the spaceport, just last week, Axions, space, we cut the ribbon. They are creating 1,300 high-paying jobs where the focus is on space, commercial space, and that's happening right here at the spaceport at Ellerton Field. In the East End, you have TXRX, where the focus is on innovative manufacturing. A few years ago, it was 10 to 12,000 square feet. But as of today, it is over 300,000 square feet, and the emphasis is on making sure that it's representative of the diversity of our city, and that's why it's in the East End. In West Houston, you have the Cannon, and the focus is on entrepreneurship and building innovation in that space. You have Build.com that's expanded here from Silicon Valley. And no longer do we just talk about Silicon Valley. We talk about hashtag Silicon Bayou right here in the city of Houston. We have proven to be resilient. As you prepare to leave today, I know you're going to do well. That's just the U of H downtown gateway. I know you're going to find good jobs. Many of you have already had it. To those who have been acknowledged, congratulations. But what I've discovered, whether you're graduating summa cum laude, whether you're graduating cum laude, magna cum laude, or just thank you laude, I know that you will represent this city extremely well. But I hope that you will give voice to many of the things that are happening in our community, in our country. I would be remiss to take my seat without talking about the massacre that took place in Buffalo on yesterday, where 10 people lost their lives due to hatred and racism. So let me say to you as I take my seat, as you move forward, you represent the hope and the dreams and the aspirations of our country. Be the heart and soul of our country. Work to improve the environment. Be better than those who are older than you. Fight for those things you know to be right. Fight for people's right to vote, and never succumb to those who want to suppress the vote. Fight for those who are dreamers, and this is their country, and they need to be recognized in their country. Fight for women's rights to have their right to choose and be in control of their own bodies. Fight for educators. Fight for educators and teachers so they can express their views in the classroom, and don't allow anybody to take tenureship away from our colleges and universities. If our country is going to succeed, it will start with all of you. I ran for mayor, not one time, not two times. I ran for mayor 3 times. The first time, I was real young. I just thought it was my turn. Didn't make it. I said, okay, Lord, I'll wait until you tell me to run again. I waited 13 years. I ran the second time. I knew God told me to run. I just discovered he didn't tell me I was going to win. So I ran the second time and did not win. The third time, I decided I wasn't going to do it. I've been there and done that. But it was this senior citizen in Acres Home who told me, she asked me, she said, Sylvester, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. And she said, look, son, if there is fuel in your tank, don't you dare park your car. You've got to do everything you can while you can, and don't live a life of regrets. Graduates, as you walk away from NRG, don't you dare live a life of regret. I ran the third time. And I'm so glad I ran the third time. If you run once and don't get it, it's okay. If you go twice and you don't get it, it's okay. Some people are sprinters. They run real fast and they achieve in a hurry. But there are some people that are long distance runners. They got to run 1 lap, 2 laps, 3 laps, 4 laps. Decide whether you are a sprinter or a long distance runner. On your mark, get set, and let's go. I am proud of each and every one of you.